Welcome to the Cyber Tech Podcast, inside the minds of everyday IT and cyber pros. Your host, Mike Fierros, will dive deep into the world of IT and cybersecurity, bringing you the stories and insights of professionals who are making waves in the field. From how they got started, to their most exciting projects, and their advice for aspiring tech enthusiasts, we cover it all. So, whether you're an industry veteran or just getting started, join us as we explore the fascinating minds behind the technology that shapes our world. Let's get started.
What's up, guys? How's it going? Cyber Tech Podcast, inside the minds of everyday IT and cyber pros. Thanks for tuning in, or if you're listening to your favorite podcast platform, or tuning in on the YouTube, AspireByte YouTube channel. If you're listening on this YouTube channel, or you listen on Spotify, definitely check out the AspireByte YouTube channel. All the current episodes of Cyber Tech Podcast is on the AspireByte YouTube channel. Be sure you guys subscribe and like any videos. Also follow on Spotify as well. We have an awesome guest here today. This individual, I saw her on. We've been following each other, I think, for quite a while. I think on LinkedIn. I think we connected on there. And what really caught my attention was she did some Udemy instructional coursework, and she uploaded a video and whatnot. So that really caught my attention, and experience working in IT and also different backgrounds. And I definitely wanted to get on here to get the story. Today we have Irene Conrad. She's an IT professional and Udemy instructor. How's it going, Irene?
Excellent. And yourself, Mike?
Good, doing good. I know we had a little bit of hiccups, but that's how
Yes.
that's how we roll in IT. We roll with
Yeah,
the punches, and if we have technical issues, we figure it out and get it working and whatnot. So,
absolutely.
thanks for your patience, and finally, I'm really happy to get you on here, Irene. I don't think I've had anybody yet that's done Udemy content like you've
Mhm.
done it recently. Like I mentioned, that really caught my attention because there's a lot of folks that's trying to get to IT or cybersecurity, myself included. When I was trying to get into IT, looked at Udemy courses,
Yes,
and I benefit a lot. I benefit a lot with Udemy courses and whatnot. And I wanted to get on here because you have also an interesting background. Irene, for those that may or may not know you, introduce yourself and explain your background and your story and how do you got into IT.
absolutely. My name's Irene Conrad. I'm originally from New York City, born and raised.
Nice.
I have some years in IT and cybersecurity, but before that, I want to say like about 24 years combined at Walt Disney World. Love
Awesome.
that place. So you can imagine the wide range of technology there. Um, and before Walt Disney World, when I was a kid in New York, my thing was technology. I was, like passionate on how the computers work. Remember the Tandy 486XX back in the day, the dinosaur
Oh yeah,
computer?
yeah.
I had the 25 megahertz version of that computer, and I did research on the motherboard to see how I can make it more powerful at the time. So research, upgrading the CPU and the Sound Blaster, it really piqued my interest on how the computers work.
Hmm.
And then, of course, you come with Tron and all these movies about technology, how they used it back in the day, especially Tron. That really gave me a push. I started dabbing in computer animation and graphics and video and
Nice.
photography. And I was getting old into the college years, computer programming, and then Netscape. You remember Netscape?
Oh, remember Netscape? Yeah.
Yes.
Oldie but goodie.
Oh, yes. So, I've been dabbing and troubleshooting and trying to learn what makes things work and tick. And as I went along in that career, we landed in Florida in 98. And my very first job at Disney was Disney Quest attractions hostess there.
Mm.
And that place just blew me away because they have simulations and graphics with the rafts. And it was like amazing. And then you get to see the
Nice.
computers like behind a screen, like the glass, and I'm like,
Mhm.
wow. So it just pushed me even further to, be in this world of IT, which is where I became the technical specialist for telecommunications and eventually law enforcement. It was great.
Mm.
I loved it.
That's awesome, Irene. Man, I remember, it's funny, I date myself too. Like I remember those computers, and I remember I had a friend of mine that had that. But I had at that time, I think I was 4 or 5, and I remember I had an Apple IIe back then. And back then we didn't realize, I guess, what we had back then and what kind of technology we're using. But I like that kind of pinged your curiosity, if you will. Like
Yes.
it got you really interested because a lot of younger folks that trying to get into the IT cybersecurity fields, they don't realize the context of the history of computers, especially
Hmm.
specifically for the personal computers and to kind of reminisce back in those days. It's I think it's really important to see where computers first started and eventually where we're at
Yes.
now. And I think
Yes.
that's a good glimpse of the past that you just gave. But definitely tell me more about Disney. I know you worked for 25 years for Disney World down there in
Yes.
Florida. How did your time at Disney kind of help you prepare yourself to get into IT? Or was that before?
Disney part of it, like I said, Disney's huge in technology, right? So
Mhm.
I've done operations in attractions, like again, Disney Quest. That is nothing but IT all over the place with that one.
Awesome.
You know.
Awesome.
So I got to learn a little bit about how those attractions worked.
Mm,
They showed me the server rooms and things like that. Um, Monorails, another big thing at Walt Disney World. That's another set of different computers. It's like
mm.
embedded windows, and before that it was like some kind of DOS, like you can tell the screen is like yellow and black. So
Uh,
that's the old fashioned operating system. So you got those there. Then call centers. I worked in two different call centers. Another set like just a basic computer with your headset talking to gas. And in our conversations, we help them troubleshoot how do you log in? It's like, oh, you need a password reset? Okay. And how do I get from here to there on the website? It's like, okay, you follow this, we click on that. And the more
Mm,
I did that with both call centers, like, okay, I actually enjoy helping people troubleshoot technology. So
mm.
throughout the years of Disney, I went for my certifications, CompTIA Network Plus, CCNA, and then just recently the CCST of Networking and Cybersecurity. And
Nice.
with those certifications, I just wanted to learn more about networking and cybersecurity recently because cybersecurity is huge now
Mhm.
because you
Yeah.
got all these breaches and it's like, okay, how do you protect your network from breaches and things like that? So it just continue on that way. It's like, and now I want to teach people, share people the knowledge that I've gained over these years with the soft skills and the IT combined
Mm.
and make it accessible to them so that they can understand, not be intimidated by all this technical jargon that you've
Yeah.
normally find
Yeah.
certifications. you know?
True.
So, try to link and say, okay, this is what, the tech side of it is, and this is what the layman side of it is, and just, connect the two. So that way they can, I guess, feel better in taking the test and not
Mm.
feel scared of learning all this technology.
Mhm.
So going back to Disney, I was a trainer for monorails and buses. And like I said, I
Awesome.
love to share information with people, my knowledge. So this is where this Udemy is coming into play now, because I
Mm.
wanted to take what I know about cybersecurity, develop a course, and put it out there.
That's awesome. I think that's another area that folks don't realize that they're trying to get into IT cybersecurity is that a lot of these, you mentioned Walt Disney, there's also Universal Studios,
Yes.
you have SeaWorld, you have Knott's Berry Farm and on the West Coast, and we don't realize, and we tend to, sometimes I forget too when I visit Disney World or Disneyland in the West Coast. There's a whole operational side to Disney that we don't see. We just see
Right.
the client, we just see the client customer facing side of it. And so,
Exactly. The
uh,
front lines.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, and there's nothing wrong. You enjoy yourself while you're there. You pay what you get. You have fun. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so I'm always in Galaxy's Edge and whatnot. You'll see me
Yes.
most of the time, me and my wife right there. But that's another area that isn't really I don't hear much about is these amusement parks and these entertainment companies that have amusement parks that need IT personnel, that need cybersecurity
Mhm.
personnel, that need information security personnel, and so and that's super important because you have customer information on the servers. you
Yes.
have you have servers controlling different rides probably
Yes.
and they're separated from a regular different networks are separated. So I guess we don't I tend to forget too as well just talking to Irene that there is a whole operational side to these amusement parks and these entertainment companies that we tend to forget about that part. So you mentioned you worked in law enforcement. Was
Yes.
that after Disney or was that before Disney?
That was after Disney. That was
Okay.
actually the very last role that I had before
Okay.
doing the Udemy project. With that, it was I was a computer specialist with the law enforcement agency, and basically we assisted with what they call Pixie boot the laptops. Fresh start from a Pixie network, install, update the operating system, put patches on it, you know, add any new law enforcement officers or personnel that are coming into the agency. You would
Right.
add them into the Active Directory, give them the correct permissions and things like that. And the same thing with the laptops, you got to put them in the correct groups in the Active Directory. We also have an email system where the emails come in through that security device first to make sure there's no malware, no phishing, it flags it. And
Mm.
then we have a lot of other things as well. I dealt with the body cameras and how to fix their little
Nice.
app on the phone to make sure it syncs up correctly and the videos are being uploaded and things like that. And I even had to take a server from their 911 call center, walk it to the office to troubleshoot why it's not working.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, we really troubleshooted it, and then we just decided, okay, you're just getting a new one
Yeah.
because it's toast.
Yeah.
But
That
yeah,
No, that's awesome. I think, it's working at working at Disney World, working in the entertainment industry, amusement park industry, and going into law enforcement,
mhm,
still working in an IT role. It's cool. It's two completely different animals, but at the same time,
yes,
it's as an IT professional, it's two different. You have two different types of stresses. Well, I mean, you got the same type of stress, but when I used to work in law, I worked in law enforcement before I got into IT, and so. I was on the officer side. I was the one that, I had someone like yourself, Irene, set up my email, put me in the Active Directory, give me the correct permissions, stuff like
mhm,
that. I was working in the correction side, so had permissions to open doors, all that stuff.
yes,
But
yes,
we don't, and that's another industry that we don't realize that needs IT professionals and needs cybersecurity professionals. And I remember working when I got into IT. I worked at a native tribe, and they had a police department. And so I didn't know anything about, they had tough books, the Panasonic tough books back then. These
mhm,
were old computers, they were still running Windows XP on there. So I hadn't, at being an Apple Mac guy, I had no idea what I was doing, but dug my feet in, started learning stuff. And this is before body cams, but
mhm.
we had to make sure back then I think it was Ryzen LTE network cards were working on there. And also another industry that we don't really realize for those that trying to figure out, they want to get into IT or cybersecurity, whether it be in education, maybe in entertainment or law enforcement, to get to the path, to be a technician or any type of IT professional. What do you think is a good starting point for them?
The good starting point would be fundamentals. Have
Mhm.
the computer fundamentals down in place. Okay. How do you operate a mouse and things like that? I mean, by now I'm sure a lot of people know, but you do, get a couple that don't, but that's
Mhm.
fine. That's okay. Learn the ultimate, like basic of computers.
Mhm.
And then IT has so many different avenues.
Yeah.
So many different avenues. I mean, it's mind blowing. So, what do you absolutely love doing? Do you love research and development? Do you love to get your hands dirty and do wiring and set up fiber optics? You know, dig deep down what you're truly passionate about, and then just set your path that way and just follow the course. But go to YouTube's or invest in like CompTIA IT fundamentals, things like that,
Mhm.
just to get an idea, what's out there. And then if something really piques your interest, go after it.
That's a good starting point, I think, because especially nowadays, back in the days when I was trying to get into IT, there was YouTube. YouTube was really young, but there wasn't really videos or resources there is now. You remember,
Mhm.
Irene, you try to you go on Netscape, and there
Yeah.
was no. I don't think Professor Messer was back
No,
on
I don't think
there.
so.
Mike Myers had books, but like There it was hard. It wasn't that it was hard back then, but the resources available was limited. And I think now, especially your courses on Udemy, Irene, I think that's going to help a lot. I like the fact that you have different skill sets. You worked in customer service.
Yeah.
You have computer graphic skill sets. I have a lot of even personal friends that want to get into IT. They may be working as a satellite technician for DirecTV, or they're a teacher at elementary school, or even a trucker working in the trucking industry.
Mhm.
The skill sets, let's say, the skill sets that they have or someone has that's in another industry that wants to make a pivot into this kind of career. How would you help them kind of guide them get into IT cybersecurity?
If you think about it, the skills that they learn from these different areas, trucking, education, they can be transferred to IT. Teachers, you're teaching students new things. So if you want to learn something new, teach it,
Hmm.
you know, and that's how you learn while everybody else is learning with you. Um, if you're a truck driver and you know you got to learn all these routes, well, networking is about routing.
Hmm.
You drive a truck and you got to drive down the street. Well, networking, you got a rip route going down this way on the router to another device. I mean, it's if you think of it that way, you can easily transpose the skills.
Hmm.
Instead of learning the actual road, you're actually learning the actual digital road.
True.
That's how I'm thinking of it.
Hmm.
Just find a creative way to transpose the skills that you learned into the IT realm. Find the connections like road, digital road, classroom, digital classroom. That's how I see it.
That's true. I think that's a good point because like even myself, I pivot from law enforcement and then get into IT, and one of the things I brought, just for example, for myself, I brought, in law enforcement, of course, I read this bunch, 90% of the work is documentation, documentation,
Yes,
on top of other documentation. So, 10% is what we see on YouTube or on TV and whatnot.
yeah,
But I brought that skill set in IT, and it really benefited, especially realizing the tickets that we get. And even if you're on help desk, like I didn't realize how, even just maybe even resetting a password, the as much detail we could put on the ticket is really good for future references, especially if
yes,
you have other technicians looking at things, trying to figure out what's really going on. Maybe there's a miscommunication issue with the user or the client, and maybe something wasn't done. But if it's documented correctly, it's done. It's they could look at that stuff, and that's just one skill set. And I like that. I like that you took the skill set, especially photography or even computer graphics,
mhm.
and you're using that right now, doing the Udemy instructional video. That's another example that you did right there. Irene, explain the Udemy instructional videos that you're doing right now, to those that might be interested in looking that up.
Absolutely. So I'm developing the first course ever, and it has to do with the Cisco Certified Cybersecurity Associate version
Awesome.
1.2 that they updated this past January. So basically, I'm just going down the blueprint and doing it part by part. So it's like a multi-part course. So right now, on Udemy, part one is live. So if you
Mm.
wanted to take the course, you could do part one. And I'm currently almost done with part two. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to upload all of that to the current course. I'm not going to create a separate course for that.
Mm.
So when I'm done, you're going to have the entire associate course on Udemy. Um, so I've been pretty much doing the PowerPoint presentation, the scripting, the audio, putting it all together with the video editing and the
Nice.
closed captioning, which is something new that I learned. Is like, oh, that's what I need to do with closed captioning and have to go into the text file and edit it all out because is the generator that's accompanying the software that I do the actual
Mm.
video edits for. It produces the text, but it adds numbers that really shouldn't be there, and it adds commas that it really shouldn't be there, and it's missing something else. I'm like, okay. Hey, it's all part of the learning process. It's how I learned how to develop these courses, and with the background that I have, because I used to dab in DVD authoring and
Mm.
video editing, just for personal fun projects, it's
Mhm.
actually helping me get this done.
Going through the experience you had, Irene, video editing, computer graphics,
Mhm.
dabbing in that, in the from the past, it's really helping you out right now. And that's
Yeah.
another, I mean, that's another example, even for those that, even for teachers, like you mentioned about, teaching and, instead of teaching in front of people, this is more digital classroom and whatnot. So, for you teachers out there that are looking into getting into the IT or cybersecurity field, or even maybe pivoting into the field, but into a more of a teaching role, like Irene's doing, look into Udemy. I mean, you contact also Irene or myself and whatnot to figure out how to do that. But I think there's so many avenues get into IT and cybersecurity that we tend to don't think about that much. As someone who has trained others in roles like Disney trainer for buses and monorails, what advice would you give to inspiring IT professionals about mentorship or skill building?
Be present mentally, physically. I mean, just as a whole, be present. Become a sponge and try to, soak everything in. Try to learn as much as you can.
Mm.
Just don't overwhelm yourself. Don't burn out. It'll come with you in time, but just ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Be very curious. Write things down because you tend to remember it when you write things down, whether it be handwritten or on a laptop.
Mm.
But definitely ask questions and stay curious and always learn because technology is always changing.
I was talking to a friend of mine that he's trying to pivot into IT right now, and he was real comfortable in his last job, and he wants to pivot something different. And that's one of the things I told him too is that going to whether it's someone that's in college and wants to get into this field or someone pivoting into this career, whatever it may be, this field specifically for IT and cybersecurity, information security, we're constantly learning because what we learned 5 minutes ago, it's already ancient.
To do it
So
now.
I guess you have to be willing to learn,
Yes.
no matter what age we are, no matter what experience we may have. Because I I was telling my friend of mine, I was like, I don't know everything. I don't know everything. That's why we have to keep learning, and we'll also work as a team as we're working with
Yes.
with other coworkers and colleagues and the teams that we're on, whatever organization we work with, and I think that's really important. I think your experience, Irene, working at Walt Disney, because I mean Walt Disney has thousands and thousands, even at the amusement parks, thousands of employees, and
Mhm.
trying to figure out how to work together because people have different worldviews, people have different skill sets. How do you mesh that together? Just like in IT, when you get into IT, you have to deal with people with different personalities and deal with users with different personalities. And so
Yes.
I think that skill set that like the soft skills that you have, Irene. It's definitely gonna help those watching your course on Udemy.
Mhm.
And it's a reminder for myself, and I'm pretty sure others listening to this podcast, that the soft skills that we learn, it's going to be very important. IT or cybersecurity path we take, whatever role we get, it's going to be really essential and very, very, very important to learn that soft skill set. Irene, with cybersecurity threats constantly evolving, what trends or challenges do you foresee becoming more prominent in 2025?
Zero-day attacks are the
Yeah.
biggest challenges, and they're getting so creative. And now with the AI,
Yeah.
it's. I remember seeing on Facebook one of the Polk County Sheriff's Office shared a video as part of a press conference about Elon Musk moving to Polk County. When you're looking at that video, it is so realistic. Like you
Mm.
actually think he was the one talking, but it was all AI generated.
Oh, wow.
So when it comes to cybersecurity, you got to find ways to be ahead of the attacker.
Mm.
What are they aiming at? Trying to find ways to decipher, is it AI generated or is this the real deal?
Mm.
you know. And another video, I don't know if you heard about a case about a girl, somebody used AI to defame her.
Oh, well.
Yeah, it was horrible. And so we got to find ways to determine if it's real or fake and how to protect, the organization and oneself from such AI attacks.
Mhm.
And it's just mind-boggling.
It's like about 0 day attacks. Making sure that the basics, right? Like making sure you're patching the servers out there, you're patching the access points, all the little things that really really matter. And then when it comes to deepfakes, it's such a big thing now. Like I think recently, well, maybe the past few months, there was a company that thought they hired someone, but the gentleman was actually in North Korea or something like that, or he
Mm,
something along those lines. And it's how do we decipher what's real versus what's fake, and that's going to be it's a challenge. These bad actors are using the same technologies we use.
mhm.
You're leveraging these large language models and leveraging doing bad things, and at the same time we have to leverage that skill to do to defend our organizations. And these deepfakes are running amok definitely right now, and I think that's a real important skill to understand for those trying to get into the field is knowing the latest and greatest things that these bad actors are doing. I mean, deepfakes. Yeah, I've seen a few where it looks very legitimate. I'm not sure if there's any software. I'm pretty sure maybe there might be something out there to detect to see if it is a deepfake. I know one thing is if an organization is using Zoom for an interview, they mentioned putting your hand like this to see if it's like put your hand up in your face in the Zoom video and see if it's something's off or something, or you see a
Right.
background or something like
If
that.
it
So
glitches or
if
something,
it
yeah.
glitches or something, yeah, yeah, that's one thing to determine if it's fake or not. But that's another thing to for those trying to get into the field is looking at deepfakes and looking at these 0 day attacks. I mean, they're not stopping. We
No.
can't be stopping to learn these things and to be ready for them when they do happen and whatnot. Okay, I have a fun question right here, Reed. If you were given keys to a brand new data center, either based on movie characters, Disney characters, what kind of actors or characters would you hire to run the data center?
It would be Tron.
Oh, there we go. Uh,
It would be Tron. That's who
nice.
you give the keys to run the data center.
I can see that. Yeah, that's no, I like that. That's a good one. That's I didn't really think about that. I was thinking about I don't know why I was thinking about Batman for some reason. I don't know if I want him to I don't know. I'd rather have him crime fight instead of ran the data center. But no, I like that. I like that answer. That's a really good answer. And if you guys haven't watched Tron, any of the old school Tron movies or the new one that came out within a few years or so, definitely watch that one. Yeah, I do enjoy the Tron movies too. Thanks for your time, Irene. I really appreciate it. I think your background is very unique, and I think those trying to figure out, if IT is a field they want to get into, looking at someone like yourself, Irene, with so much experience, customer service experience, you worked in law enforcement, doing support. I think having those different backgrounds, it's gonna definitely help someone to get into IT and also encourage them like, hey, it doesn't matter what kind of career you come from, what kind of path you took to get here. If you do want to get into IT cybersecurity, you leverage your skill sets you learn and into the field and whatnot. I think this episode is gonna be beneficial for someone that wants to really dig in and use their skill sets they learn from different industries into the IT cybersecurity field. And thanks for your time, Irene. And Irene, for those that may want to contact you or may want to check out your Cisco training course on Udemy, how do they contact you and how do they find that course?
On LinkedIn, I'm under Irene Conrad. So if you look for me as Irene Conrad on LinkedIn, you'll find me there. You can, connect with me and, message me on Udemy. If you do a search for my name as well, Irene Conrad, it'll pop up the first course, Cisco Certified Cybersecurity Associate, CBROPS 200-201 version 1.2. It is a long name.
Nice.
But that's, but you'll see my picture in the corner of the little image, the little GIF image there of the course. But
For sure.
that's how you find me. Yeah.
Awesome. Then I'll make sure I put it on the podcast show notes so that way folks can contact you and check out your course, Irene. And thanks, Irene. Appreciate you being on this podcast. And this was Irene Conrad, IT professional and Udemy instructor, episode number 16 in the books. Thanks, Irene.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Definitely. Thank you. And you listen to the CyberSec podcast, inside the minds of everyday IT and cyber pros. See you guys.